Good morning and welcome to the third webinar, which, as part of UnvexLive, is aimed to provide relevant information related to the unmanned system. And this is a preparatory activity for Unvex 24. Unvex, which stands for Unmanned Vehicles Exhibition, is the largest event for unmanned systems in Spain since 2010, with 8 editions in Spain plus 4 in Latin America. The 9th edition of Unvex will take place in Barcelona between the 4th and the 6th of June 2024. In this occasion, we are designing and planning Unvex as an international event, mainly at the European level, devoted to all kinds of professional drones, either for transport, commercial applications, or defense and security, or in any domain, air, sea, or land, and counter systems. Our goal is to become the most ambitious European event of unmanned systems. And that's why, for this purpose, we are asking the support and participation of national, European, and other international organizations. The third webinar, titled Drones, a Comprehensive Vision, will cover key topics such as regulation, counter-UAS, and technology. In order to achieve the objectives of this webinar, we have highly qualified professionals in each of the mentioned topics. Let me introduce our first speaker, Mr. Rodrigo Benedit, got a material engineer degree in July 2018 from Complutense University of Madrid. Then in 2019, he got an university master's degree specializing in renewable energies, and from May to September 2021, he attended the Renewable H2 Executive Program in the Industrial Organization School. He has worked in different companies in the area of renewable energies at the national and European Union level. Since February 2023, he works in the ENAIRE Drone Business Development, U.S. Department, specifically in the areas of development and implementation of the U.S. in Spain for the safe management of U.S. operations, including development and testing of the platform, certification of ENAIRE procedures, and development of projects at the national and European level. Mr. Benedit, please, the floor is yours. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alberto. I want to share the presentation. Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning to everyone, and thank you so much for attending this webinar. I will talk to you about the U.S. space and its contribution to the secure sky environment. Just in case some people here are not familiar with U.S. space, let's start with a short introduction to it. U.S. space is the European Commission proposal for the UTM integrated in the single European sky. It consists of a set of digital services designed to support the management of a large number of UAS operations in a digital and automated way. These U.S. services are provided by U.S. service providers, or USSP, in the volumes defined as U.S. airspaces. There are drone geographic zones designed for drone operations supported by U.S. services. The single Common Information Service Provider, or CISP, will bring together the common information from the Civil Aviation Authority, the Air Navigation Service Providers, and the USSP, providing it to all the interest groups. Since the European Commission regulation publication in April 2021 and the acceptable means of compliance and guide material publication in December 2022, in ENAIRE we are developing 2 platforms in order to obtain certification as Common Information Service Provider and U.S.-based service providers. The certification process is scheduled to begin in the middle of this year, and we expect that by the end of this year, we will be able to start providing the service. Parallel to this, we are participating and testing our platforms in European projects such as ULCOM. We will talk a bit more about ULCOM later. Although the US space is designed for UAS operations, it is necessary to coexist with manned aviation and have defined procedures in the cases that an aircraft penetrates in an active US space. We will see now two different cases in which a manned aircraft can penetrate in US space. The first one is the one you can see in the left side of the screen right now, and is when the US space is designed in controlled airspace. In this case, the air traffic controller must do what you can see in the right side of the screen. Is what we call a dynamic airspace reconfiguration, or DAR, or DAR. This process is in order to segregate temporarily the airspace in which the aircraft is going to operate, finishing all the UAS operations in that airspace volume. In relation to this, a coordination process is being developed between ENAIRE as Common Information Service Provider of US space and ATS providers, including Skyway and Saerco, to define the mode of operation during the DAR. In this respect, in the particular case of Spain, and for lack of integration between ATN systems and US space, it is being defined that, at least temporarily, it will be the tower supervisor who initiates the DAR procedure from an additional screen. On the other hand, when the US space is defined in uncontrolled airspace, regulation says that it's mandatory for manned aviation operating on it to make themselves electronically visible by at least one conspicuity device. This is in order to USSP know when a manned aircraft penetrates US space. There are three types of conspicuity transmission mechanisms. The first one is automatic device surveillance broadcast, that, as you know, is one of the best known surveillance technologies and has the advantage of being a certified technology already installed in some aircraft. However, it has a major disadvantage, and is that it's not the ideal technology for general aviation due to its high price and weight. For this reason, EASA is proposing two new transmission mechanisms. The first one is automatic device surveillance light, that although it's not a certified device already installed in aircrafts, it already exists a standardization for this type of devices, and is based in the short-range device 860 MHz frequency band, such as the FLARM. The second type of new transmission mechanism proposed by EASA is automatic device surveillance light mobile, that it has a really good advantage, that is that it transmits through the mobile telecommunication networks. So there already exists the infrastructure necessary to use this technology. Nevertheless, this is largely undefined, and the standardization is still in process. As mentioned above, in parallel to the certification process, ENAIRE is participating in European projects such as ULCOM. ULCOM is our US-based flagship project in Spain, and it aims to deploy US space in different locations, or how we call it, sandboxes, in 3 different countries that we call clusters, namely Spain, Italy, and France. ENAIRE is the leader of the Spanish cluster, and the project is helping to accelerate the US space implementation in 9 sandboxes across the country. For the development of this project, not only the industry has been involved, but also, for example, law enforcement agencies, public entities such as city councils, etc. One of these sandboxes of Welcome is the city of Benidorm in Valencia. This location is important because it's expected. Sorry, I haven't passed the, the slide. One of the, this sandbox of Welcome, that is Benidorm in Valencia, is important because it's expected to be here where the first airspace risk assessment in Spain will be developed. Airspace risk assessment, or ARA, is the necessary pre-step to be developed prior to the U.S.-based designation in a location, and is necessary to ensure safe drone operations. Currently, the development of another ARA is being initiated in the A Coruña sandbox, and is based in the results of the Benidorm ARA. This ARA consists of 3 different phases. The first one is the preparation phase, in which the scope of the airspace risk assessment is defined. The second one is the reference scenario phase, in which the study of the current situation in the location request to be a US space is developed, in addition to data collection or stakeholder interviews. And the third one is the review phase, in which the requirements of the US space are defined. These requirements, for example, can be related with US technical specifications, or the airspace, or maybe the US space services needed, etc. To conclude my presentation, I would like to comment on an issue that I think is important to take into account, especially if we are talking about the safe sky environment in the US space, and its non-cooperative US. Counter-UAS devices are useful for taking down these non-cooperative drone operations, but with regard to US space airspace, it can be difficult to determine which UAS should not be there. There is no provision in the regulation on how to integrate a US space service with counter-UAS devices. And this can be a big problem, especially if we are talking about an airspace with a large number of drone operations. In this regard, the initiative Drone Strategy 2.0 insists that there needs to be a better coordination between US space and counter-UAS systems in the US space. My colleague, José Antonio Cebrián, will address these and other issues in his presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benedit, for your interesting presentation. Let's go with the second speaker. He is Mr. José Antonio Cebrián. He has a degree in physical sciences, police sciences, and law. He holds a master's degree in cybercrime and holds numerous degrees in technology. He is currently the head of the State Emergency Digital Radio Communication System. He is also chief of the Research, Development and Innovation area and the Counter-UAS Department in the General Subdirectorate of Information Systems and Communications of the Spanish Ministry of Interior. Mr. Cebrián, please, whenever you want.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the Unvex organization for the participation of the Technological Center for Security of the Ministry of Interior, and especially you, Alberto. Okay, let's start with the presentation, please. What does the following sentence mean? There are 2 ways of dealing with problems or challenges. First, wait for someone else to solve it for us, and second, my way of life, work hard, search, and find the solution ourselves. And this is exactly the challenges we are facing in drone technology. Second, please. Okay. For security purpose, what is a drone? It is impossible to define, not only because of the diversity of platforms, size, shapes, but also because of the different payloads. What is the threat? The war in Ukraine and the Hamas attacks have seen an increase in the use of commercial drones as weapons of attack. the thin red line between national security, defense, and public security has disappeared. On the other hand, there are some initial, no, please. On the other hand, there are some initial variables questions that we must study to reduce and try to solve. Their variables are, among others, to whom and what we are going to protect, where we are going to protect, because there are cities, urban areas, airports, how there are hundreds of different systems. In short, for the Ministry of Interior, the problem is commercial drones, and very important, detection, identification, monitoring, and finally, defeat. All of the steps covers BART intelligence system and Belgaus. 100% of security is impossible. Next slide, please. In these tables, we can see a comparison between different detection. It is important to point out that detection also includes identification and monitoring, and on the other hand, neutralization system. In the last 5 years, we have met with more than 100 companies in that sector and attended more than 40 demos around the world. Conclusion, no single system is globally better than the other. The solution is based on a mix of technologies adapted to the particular situation. That is to say, protecting an airport is not the same as protecting the movement of a royal family. For the Ministry of Interior, nowadays there are 2 very good detection systems, radar and radio frequency. In some occasion, we use OPTI for identification, not for detection, because the coverage is low, and in order to neutralize the threat, nowadays we are using jamming. Personally, I love CAT, but it's very difficult to use, and the spoofing GPS. But it's forbidden. It's forbidden. We can't use it. Next slide, please. In this map, we can see the current deployment of Siglo CD. There are about 30 antennas deployed, but in the next 3 years, more than 100 new detector antennas will be deployed throughout the national territory. The average detection radius is 15 kilometers. That is a circumference of 30 in diameter. The system is based on a client-server architecture. The detector and the neutralizers are peripherals that plug into the system, with all data arriving at the central server with groups and user permissions. Okay, in 2022, we detected in Madrid more than 1,400 flights over Madrid. And finally, another key part of being efficient and effective in the face of the threat that drones can pose is collaboration. On October 5 and 6, the summit of the European political community and the informal meeting of heads of state and government was held in Granada, within the framework of the Spanish president of the Council of EU. Among other tasks, the Ministry of Interior, together with the Ministry of Defense, deployed a system to detect, identify, monitor, and, if it was necessary, neutralize drones. The first time that a joint anti-drone device was implemented between the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Defense was during the last NATO summit that took place in Madrid last June. In the specific case of Granada summit, the Interior Siglo CD system was integrated with the ground, Cerberus, and enforced size defense systems. 11 flights were detected in the city of Malaga and 36 in Granada, none of which compromised the security of the event. It should be noted that on the 5th, a drone was detected flying towards the Alhambra and was intercepted before the entry the Alhambra, and the pilot was identified. And the last slide, please. Thank you very much for your attention. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cebrián, for your interesting presentation. Then let's go to the third and last but not least speaker. He is Mr. José Prieto, Director of Business Development and Institutional Affairs of GMB's Defense and Security sector. As an aerospace engineer specialized in aircrafts, he has worked in different departments on GMB. He started as a project engineer for various contracts with the European Space Agency and has now been working for 20 years as Director of Business Development and Institutional Affairs. Mr. Prieto, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will share the screen. Okay. So I guess you're able to see the screen now. Okay. So thank you for the introduction. Thank you for your words and for the opportunity to address the audience today. I feel a bit relaxed being the last one because I'm not the only obstacle between you and the coffee break, because being a webinar, I guess that you're already enjoying this webinar with a coffee. So I hope that you find it interesting. So in the next few minutes, I will summarize the industry vision, or at least how we see the things here in GMB. And like I said, I really hope that you find that interesting. So I will start with an introduction. Then I will talk a bit about the key factors from the industry perspective which are shaping the drone industry today. I will specifically address the defense market because it's the area in which GMB has the expertise and capability. And then I will end with some conclusions. Okay, so as a way to the introduction, I will like to invite you to make the following question today. So why are we here today? So I guess that you all agree that the drones market, the ARPAs or whatever you want to call it, is a very attractive market. And there's been a lot of crystal ball exercise in the past years regarding the size and the opportunities of the drone market. So the European Commission says that only in Europe by 2030, there will be 14.5 billion euros of business with 145,000 jobs, all this only in Europe. Another study showed that, or estimate the size of the market around 44.8 billion euros by 2027. Some other studies, 43.1 billion euros by already in 2024. And I brought as an example, as an illustration, another study showing 69.2 billion euros by 2030. So this is a very, very attractive market, like I said. But the question for me that I place today is, are we there yet? So this is a very attractive market, but are we enjoying this very, very wealthy market? And I would say, still that with the introduction, I would say that not quite, but getting closer. So we all agree that this market is very promising, but it's still immature. And for example, also an illustration, in the civilian sector, the whole market is dominated by a single company, with the Chinese DJI, with around 70% of the business of the platform manufacturer and so on. So this is not monopolistic, but very, very dominated by a single company. But it still is very attractive. I mean, there are several companies in the past year who failed trying to get into this drone business. but more than 100 startups are already working in Spain in this market. So the question is, what happened? So this is a very attractive market, but then a lot of difficulties are on the way. So I just place here three main reasons. First, the regulatory framework. So there's been a lot of discussion also in this webinar about the regulatory market. The regulatory framework is rather complex. Then the public assistance. I will talk about that in the later. And then the business model. So, I mean, someone has to pay for that. So there has to be sufficient buy-in for all the stakeholders involved, the institutions, the member states, the citizens, and so on. But this problem is not new. I mean, I've been in this market for a while, and I brought here in this slide as an example an initiative already 20 years ago. In 2004, there was an initiative called Access 5 in the US, in which the usual suspects, I mean, big companies and big institutions like NASA, Department of Defense, Environment, Aurora Flight Science, Boeing, General Atomics, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman, they were granted a 135 million euro contract in 2004 in order to enable routine access. In that case, it was HAIL Airbus, high altitude and low endurance regulation. I mean, in order to address the problem of access to non-regulated airspace. And I remember that we were told, don't worry, we will be back with a solution. This was a complete failure. The program was terminated in 2006. So like I said, the regulatory framework program is quite complex and was clearly underestimated. So which are the key factors? I said here from the industry perspective, at least the way we see in GMB. So I brought eight different points that I guess that need our attention and will shape the drone market in the coming years. First is safety and security. I mean, there's a lot to develop in that area. In areas like sense and avoid, data protection, spoofing and jamming. So initiatives like the Galileo PRS may play a role regarding the protection, safety and security of the drones. Then technology. I mean, there are a number of technology to develop in the drone market, which is a very, very important topic. There has to be progress or development in propulsion, in sensors for a number of payloads, communication, artificial intelligence. I brought here as an example a GMB study for the European Defense Agency called SafeTerm, which used artificial intelligence in order to safely terminate the drone, the flight of a drone in case of a malfunction. Also, development of standards is very important. Another key topic is the public perception. So it's public assistance. Are we all of us okay boarding on a plane with no pilot? So what other concerns? I mean, are we safe? Are we happy if we see drones in a city flying everywhere? I mean, and there are issues like noise, privacy, and so on. Another very important topic is the market and investment. Again, the business model, the pricing strategy, and which R&D initiatives are needed for that. There is a very interesting article in the Infodrome webpage and wrote by Enrique Ventas saying who is going to pay for the US space. I mean, we hear a lot about US space today. It's a fabulous initiative, but someone has to pay for that. So we have to develop the business model and the pricing strategy. We will need infrastructures as well for the safe operation of drones, communication networks, a safe and reliable drone segment, so you name it. Energy efficiency, more electric aircraft, topics like pollution and recyclability, so that sort of things. Also insurance. There is a whole new market to be developed regarding the insurance. All the drones will be properly, will need to have a proper insurance, and there's a new market to develop there. And last but not least, integration with manned aviation. So we heard also a lot in this webinar about this integration with manned aviation, which is mandatory for the safe operation of drones. I will now move to the perspective in the defense market, which is completely different. And I think is worth mentioning, and is where GMB has the expertise. So the first thing is to say that it's completely different with respect to the civilian market. It's very different in terms of regulation, in airworthiness. I mean, the regulatory authorities is another one. The time scales are also completely different. The market dynamics and the production time are completely different with respect with the civilian sector. And which are the uses? Which is the use case in the military scenario? So a lot of them: intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition and reconnaissance, close air support, artillery correction with battle damage assessment, precision strike, logistics, communication, electronic warfare, you name it. So there are a lot of use for the drones in the military market. It was also mentioned by my colleague José Antonio Cebrián. Ukraine war is a game changer. Everything is different since the war in Ukraine. I mean, we've seen commercial drones use weapons on a daily basis, but then on the other side, the technology and the procedures in counter UAS and the protection against these commercial drones uses as weapons is progressing. So everything is different since the Ukraine war. And then I think that there's it is worth to mention the specific platform which will play an important role in the defense market in the future, which is attritable platforms. So what is an attritable platform? Is a platform, is a drone that is reusable. And what means that? I mean, it means that the loss of that platform is acceptable if it contributes to the mission. But don't get me wrong. I mean, being still a big deal to lose a platform. Then those attritable platforms have lower cost than manned and more sophisticated platforms. The idea of this attritable platform is to be provided in sufficient number and with rapid manufacturing. So the idea with the use of the attritable platform is to outnumber the enemy. Is a change of the paradigm in the air combat. I mean, in which we are moving from the single point of failure to a federated mission responsibility in the combat scenario. And this type of platforms will play a very important role in the future. Okay, and last, I will finish my talk today with some conclusions. As a summary, there are great expectations in the drone market. I started my talk with that since the inception, but it's clear that regulatory challenges have been underestimated. I brought with this example of the Access 5, $135 million in 2004 in order to solve a problem which already exists today with the big players in the market. Also, an adequate business is yet to be developed. So there are very, very interesting applications. Now we're talking about the civilian sector, like aero taxis, delivery, and so on, which are still to prove the economical feasibility. Think, for example, that in a big city, these type of services are competing with the delivery global guy in a bike. So, I mean, this has to be sustainable, and someone has to pay for this infrastructure. Then I also talk about the defense market, where defense has its own agenda. think, for example, in the FCAS program, in which GMB is participating through the Status Technology joint venture. There's an entire technology pillar in the FCAS program devoted to remote carrier. So in which technologies like the so-called MUT, the man-on-man teaming, and the attritable platforms will shape the future air combat. So there's a lot of opportunities for drones in the defense. Okay, and then I talk about the difficulties, the showstoppers, and the difficulties of the business. But those who know me know that I am optimistic by nature. So I would like to finish my talk with a positive thought, and is that I truly believe that the progress in the regulatory framework and also progress in disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, 5G, 3D manufacturing, batteries, you name it, indicate a very promising prospect in the coming years. So I think that we have reasons to be optimistic. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prieto, for your presentation as well. So let's go to the questions and answers period. My first question is going to Mr. Cebrián. You have spoken about the challenges to detect, identify, and defeat the drones not authorized to fly in a specific area. We have seen in Ukraine that combatants have been buying the commercial drones in online shops, most of them, for instance, DJI and so on. And we have seen that they have changed the software, they have changed the hardware, they have changed the payload. So how is that going to impact? And we have a bad guy trying to do something wrong in our country. How that possibility that is being implemented in Ukraine is going to impact our system, our security. Is security prepared to do that? Thank you, Mr. Cebrián.
It's a very difficult question, but we spend all time study different solutions and also study different threats. Nowadays, we are able to detect we call fake DJI drones. Drones for DJI that the people change the software and sometimes the hardware. Also, we adapt of the detection and neutralization system for the new threats. But step by step, and we are working very hard. But I think that Spain is an incredible country, and we have to sense proud because we are the first country in Europe to develop a global counter-drone system, the first and also one of the first in the world. But also it's very important to cover and to protect the system. Never give enough information because only the bad guys take conclusion for the develop of the system as the way to work. But nowadays we are able to detect fake DJI drones and also another manufacturers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cebrián. The same question goes to Mr. Benedit with regard to the US space. I mean, how US space is going to be prepared to these possible interferences from drones coming from the bad guys? Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Well, we have to have really clear that now we are in the certification process of our platforms. So we have that in mind, but I think it's not the time to start trying to implement these US-based services in the contiguous devices, because for that objective, we have to have a fully developed an operative platform. I mean, in U-Space, we will have to have these contiguous devices, and we really think that is really important that in U-Space these devices have the U.S.-based services, because in an environment with so many drone operations, if we have the U.S.-based services in the contiguous devices, these devices will be able not only to know which US, to detect that US, but also to know if that US is operating safely and under our conditions, or if it's an US, as you say, from a bad guy. So we think that in US space, we will have these devices, these contiguous devices in the future, but now is really soon to start implementing it, because we think it's better to have an operative platforms to see that that works, and after that to complete the circle of security and safety with that contiguous devices with US-based services.
Thank you, Mr. Benedit. Thank you very much. The next question is for Mr. Prieto. I think that we all agree that the unmanned systems market is growing and growing and growing. Could you please tell us, if you have information about that, what country in the world, I'm talking about the global market, what country in the world is going to have the most level of growing, please?
I missed the last part, sorry. Which part of the, could you please?
So what country is going to grow the most?
Okay.
We got to drones and to the drones market.
Okay, it's actually, I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, and the crystal ball exercise have proved to. I mean, it's clear that the trade is dominated by China. I mean, I already said that I mean, there's a single company with roughly 70% of the market share, which is a great concern. Now Europe is reacting. I mean, for the preparation of this talk, I've been reading a lot of documentation about the drone market and the way in which Europe is reacting, and the prospect is very interesting. But the market is very dynamic, and so far, I mean, it's again a crystal ball that which will fail in the future. But I'm afraid that there are still some years to be dominated by the Chinese manufacturers, because at the end, is very related with the business model that I said. I mean, it's very hard to compete with these platforms, which are rather cheap and are reliable. But I mean, I also predict a turning point due to the regulation. Once that the market is properly regulated, and I believe that it will be heavily intervened, it will be heavily regulated, I guess that the market will change, and we may perceive some change in the figures also that I presented today.
Thank you, Mr. Prieto. And in that global market, what do you think is going to be the Europe position and the Spanish position?
I mean, like I said, it will be heavily regulated, and I mean, we will have first to ensure that this is something that is happening today, that we are protecting the technology in the so-called technology sovereignty, in the sense that we have already realized, but not only in this market, also in aeronautics and space, that we cannot depend on external technology to defend our assets and to nurture our industry. And this is a trend which has already started, and it will continue in the future. So I believe that in the coming years, a number of R&D activities and support to the national industry will come, and we'll see. I mean, I'm positive about that, and I guess that we will see some changes.
Great, great. Thank you very much. Now I have a question for you three. After watching all of your great presentation, what can we expect to see from your administrations and companies in Unvex 24 in case of you are going? Let's start, for instance, for Mr. Benedit.
Okay, now from ENAIRE, this year will be important because, as I have already said, is the year where we expect to finish start and finish the certification process. So, and at the end of this year, we expect to start the service provision of our 2 platforms, and we expect to have the first ARA airspace risk assessment in Spain finish it, at least one, and maybe the first US space deployed, full deployed too. So this year we have a lot of work to do, but we are really positive. We know that the regulation of José Prieto has already said is still in process and adapting, and we have to adapt in the same way. But for us, we expect that this year will be the last one about the certification and will means the start of the provision this year in US space. And also, but also this year can be really important to start the service provision. We have to keep in mind too that the regulation will be changing, so we cannot relax and we have to adapt to it.
Thank you, Mr. Benedit. Mr. Cebrián, please.
Okay. For security purpose, we have further advanced the deployment of silos CD, both territorially in order to cover all the country and technologically in order to cover some different gaps. A key point is also start a new collaboration with private companies private companies and another administration. In the presentation, I talk about the collaboration with the Ministry of Defense. For us, is fundamental, but now we also want to collaborate in 2 ways with private companies in order to be able to plug in new systems to Siglo and in order to send us all the information about new threats, new drones, new models, and try to cover everything. But okay, we don't have enough time to do everything, but I promise that we are going to try it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cebrián. Mr. Prieto, please.
Yes, for us, and I already said that at the beginning, is a sweet moment. I mean, and the numbers are beautiful. So Unvex 2024 will be an excellent opportunity for us to engage with all the stakeholders. I mean, the topics that we will show and that we will discuss in Barcelona in June are mainly focused in the defense market, like I mentioned in my talk. So we will bring the platforms that we have developed together with our avionics, the Seeker, Passer, and Solo, a small Airpass. We will also show the developments in the flagship European programs in which we are participating, like Eurodrone and the CIRTAP. And last but not least, we will have the opportunity to discuss about the involvement in the unmanned platforms in the FCAS program. I mean, there, like I said, in the future combat air system, the remote carriers, the unmanned platforms, we play a major role, and we'll have the chance to discuss the progress in the man-unmanned teaming that I already mentioned, and the attritable platforms. I mean, that there are all sorts of unmanned platforms considered in the FCAS programs, in the very big ones, the loyal equipment, to the smaller one, like evolution of the missiles, and we will have the chance to engage with the relevant stakeholders in Barcelona in June.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prieto. Another question coming from the audience, and I think this is going for Mr. Benedit. How is the certification? When and who is going to give this certification to operate the drones that humans can fly on it? For example, a taxi or a drone car human transport.
Can you repeat it, please? I haven't listened.
Yes. How is the certification? When and who is going to give this certification to operate the drones that humans can fly on it? For instance, a taxi or a drone car human transport.
Okay, so the question, well, the certification process is with AESA, the Spanish EASA. It's like EASA in Spain, no? But they are who have to approve our procedures that have to fit with the regulation, and to allow us to provide us the certification, the certificate for common information service provider and US-based service providers as different concepts. But I don't know if the question goes to only related with eVTOLs, or it goes for all the ENAIRE operations in U space. Well, because are different things. If you want to certificate ourselves as a company that provides transports with eVTOLs, you have to do other procedures and obtain different certificate than the ones are going to obtain ourselves. That is for the provision of a service in US space. There are different roles. One role is the company that provides the service, that are ours as common information service providers and US-based service providers. And the other certification can be, for example, in certified category of, are you listening? Do you listen me correctly or? Okay, now? I'm not listening properly. Can you listen to me right now?
No, now it's okay.
Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened. As I was saying, one thing is the certification process to obtain the service provider as common information service provider and US-based service provider. Another type of certification with AESA 2 is the one that private companies can obtain, for example, for doing US operation in certified category for eVTOLs, for example, or transport of heavy deliveries or persons. I think
Okay.
with that, I'm asking the question.
I think that the question came, I mean, the question was mainly related to the companies providing that service. I think the question came from the audience, but I guess that it was related to that specific area, the companies providing the service. Okay.
The service of eVTOLs, right?
Right.
Ah, okay. That's not our field then.
Okay. Now, I think that we are almost going out of running out of time. So let me do the last question. When we speak about drones, most of the time we think on unmanned aerial systems, but we all know that the unmanned ground systems, unmanned maritime systems are also developing and are also present in several activities in the field. So what about swarms? I mean, what about different drones or different systems working in different areas with the same mission? I think this question is for you all, for your three. Let's start, for instance, for Mr. Benedit, please.
Repeat it, please, the main part.
The swarms. Swarms, we are talking about different drones or different unmanned systems operating in different areas, operating at the same time with the same mission.
Yes.
So in the area of defense is a very, very typical example, and we know that in Ukraine it's been used. So what do you think about the use of these systems in the US space topic?
The use of different drones operating at the same time, you mean? Well, that's the objective in US space. We are developing an environment for a high number of UAS operations. That's our main objective. The objective of US space is to have different operations at the same time, but they will have different flight plans. It's like the ATM system right now, but compressed and ubicated and located in our US space airspaces. Each drone will have his own flight plan and will have a defined procedure that we have to respect to can allow other operations of US at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Benedit. Mr. Cebrián, please.
Okay, from security, there are 2 points of view. Use of S1 as a help for police purpose is very, very important. But on the other hand, the use of S1 as a threat, for example, detection is not very complicated with radio frequency or radar. Monitoring is more complicated, but defeat or neutralize the swarm is very, very complicated. Also, and in urban areas is almost impossible. But we did.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Prieto, please.
Yeah, very briefly. For us, it's very, very interesting. I mean, I think that in the defense area, there's an ecosystem in which exercising the swarming capabilities has a tremendous potential. I mean, many of the missions that I describe for the military application of drones are only successful through the operation of coordinated aerial platforms. And also, finish on time, I would like to mention that I'm lucky enough to work in a company which is also heavily involved in the space application of unmanned platforms. I mean, we are heavily involved in the, for example, in planetary exploration with rovers. So again, the swarming technologies and the cooperation of unmanned platforms is the way to go for sure in this type of missions.
So thank you very much, Mr. Prieto. It's 10 o'clock, so it's time to say goodbye. Not before giving thanks to the audience and of course to our three speakers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. We from IDS are looking forward to meeting you all in Barcelona. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.